Hey artists, we're going to make these beautiful, colorful landscapes with black glue and watercolors. I'll show you all the steps. Okay, the first thing we want to do is put our paper the landscape way, and we are going to be drawing a landscape. When we're drawing this, the most important thing is that we do not put teeny tiny close lines together because we are tracing this with black glue, and glue is thick, and we don't want to have these big globs of glue all squishing together because we made our lines really big. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw my horizon line, and I'm just going to have it gently curve across my page. And then if I want to put some kind of hills back here, I can do that. So I've got some like little hilly spaces, and I can break those up with a line. I just want to make sure that the lines are big enough that I can trace them with glue without everything getting stuck together. I'm going to make a sun back here, and I'm going to have my sun have some lines coming out where those rays are shining. Okay, I've got my sun, I've got some rolling hills, and now I want to think about kind of this middle ground in the foreground. And you have some options. You could add in some flowers, you could add in some trees, you could have some water here. I noticed that the Robin Mead examples have lots of these kind of swirling waves. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do that, but I also maybe I'll put, let's see, I'm gonna put some swirling waves coming up. So I'm gonna have my lines swirling like this, and then some lines coming down to show where that wave comes from, and another big wave. And maybe some little waves of water. And then over here, I might just show some water lines. So maybe it's a little lake. And then I like the idea of just having, so we've got, you know, the water kind of in the middle ground. The background is the sun setting in the mountains, and our foreground, what's close up here, I might have some up close flowers. Now again, I want to make sure that if I make teeny tiny little petals like this, I know that when I put the glue on it, it's not going to be easy for me. I am making big, wide open lines that will not be hard to trace with glue. So I've got another flower coming up here. And maybe there's some petals coming from a flower off to the side. And then I'll put one over here. And I can just go back and erase that. So I've got these flowers that are kind of popping up from the foreground, the water, the mountains, the sunshine. I didn't put any teeny tiny lines because that would be difficult to trace with glue. So the next step is tracing with glue. All right, black glue is thick and the bottles are kind of big. So I need to make sure that I am ready to squeeze pretty hard, and I have to start at the top, because if I start at the bottom and then I reach up through the black glue, I'm gonna have black glue all over my arms. So I'm just gonna twist it so I see that separation that tells me it's open. And I'm gonna start with the very top lines. And so I'm just squeezing, I'm actually touching the paper, and then I will just push down and then pick up, and I'm just trying to follow that line. And now you can really see why we did not want little tiny lines, because this is hard to draw with. A big fat bottle of glue is not the easiest thing. And this is going to take us probably an entire class just to get the black glue carefully on the lines, starting with these top ones first and slowly making my way down. But these will look very cool when we add the paint after they're dry. All right, as we're making progress, it does start to feel like this is going to take us forever. But we're just doing our best, squeezing that glue, following the lines, going from top to bottom. So now I'm kind of reaching that bottom point. And I'm really glad I didn't make any teeny tiny lines, because this hasn't been too bad to trace. Once we are done tracing, then these are going to go up on the drying rack. And we've got to let all this glue dry out before we add paint to it. All right, that glue is on every spot. Now, it's impossible to get it perfect, so you'll see some of my pencil lines sticking through, and that's okay. I'm going to put it on the drying rack, let it dry, and then we can add that paint. Now that the black glue is dry, we have this nice raised black line, and we can go ahead and start adding color to our landscape. Now, we are inspired on this one by Robin Mead, the painter. And something I noticed is that when she's coloring the different sections of her landscape, she doesn't just use one color. She's really combining a lot. And I think that our watercolor set here that has lots of different colors will come in really handy. So she wouldn't just use yellow. She would go in and she'd have some orange worked in here. And then once that's dry, she might even go back and add a little bit of red. We could even work that in now while it's wet to get a nice blended look. And that is looking so cool. And so I'm going to kind of repeat that step across my sky for this beautiful sunset look. And so I'm just going to keep adding those different colors in. And it just has this fiery, fun sunset happening. I like to add a little bit of water first. And I could even try some of this lighter yellow. You can kind of mix it up. But we're just going to add this beautiful sunset in. Always washing my brush so I don't get all the colors muddy. Using my messy mat here because I know I'm going to go right off the page with my colors. And so I'm just going to move across here, and I love doing her technique of not just one color but lots of color blending. It really makes it come alive. So I'm going to go ahead and do this across my entire sky real quick. All right, I've got my sunset done in with the sun, and now we can move on to working on these rolling hills. Something I noticed again is that she would not just use one color in her work. So I might put a base of a light green down, but then I can go back and add some other shades. Sometimes she uses kind of like a pinstripe or like line texture across, so I might get some of this darker green here and just add in some lines of a darker green and let those kind of blend in. I've got another shade over here I could add in. And I can go ahead and work on the next one over here. I might fade from the darker green to a lighter green. So you can kind of look at her work and get some ideas of the things you like and the things you'd like to try. I might even add a little bit of yellow into this hill. I think one of the greatest things about watercolor is how we can blend and the colors kind of melt together and do their own thing, and it looks really cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue adding some different shades of green to these hills, and then we can move on to our water. So we're just starting from the top and slowly moving down. Adding that color in and making it really unique. All right, we went ahead and added the different kinds of greens, and I added some little texture where I took my brush and made some little short lines with different shades or little splotches, swirly lines to try to get some of those different textures and colors worked in with the green. Now we're going to move on to our little lake we have here, and so I'm going to just do the same kind of style that we see with her art, where we start with one color and we add some different colors and different textures to really make it come to life. So I'm going to start with some light blue here for kind of the back of the water. Get a little water on here so it'll move with us. And then I can go back and add some lines of different shades of blue. And it's really fun with our black glue because it really creates a barrier to separate these different sections for us. So we lay down that base color. I can go back and get a different blue and make some little waves. This technique is called wet on wet, and so you'll see as I make the little waves, because the paper's already wet, it kind of blends together. It's not making real defined lines, they kind of explode into the water. If you want to go back over this when it's dry, which would be dry on wet, then, or wet on dry, excuse me, your wet paint on top of the dry will actually make a more defined line. So I might let this level dry, and then I could go back and try a different blue. Maybe for this layer, I'll use a totally different blue because we have several choices. So I'm just going to get some water on here first. And I might use some of this really bright blue in here. And like I said, once this is dry, I could go back and add some other texture. We could add some purples into our blues to look like the deep part of the ocean. We're just going to go ahead, and if you have water in your landscape, we're going to add our different shades for the water before we move down to the flowers in the foreground. Or maybe you have trees, maybe you have grass. Whatever you've got up here would be the next step after you finish this middle ground. All right, I got the water colored in, but like I was saying, once some of this is a little bit drier, you can go in and add some extra texture. So it's like I could go and get a little bit of this, and now that this is drier, if I make like some little swirly marks like this, because it's not wet on wet, the lines stay more defined. So if I wanted to make one little section that has swirls, I could do that, which I think looks kind of cool. All right, and if I wanted to maybe add some more wave lines back here, I could. You could go back and add some texture to your sun if you wanted. So once things dry a little bit, you can add some extra texture if you want. You can also just leave it blank or leave it with the smooth texture, which also looks really nice. So we have finished the background, the middle ground, and now I'm down here at the foreground. I see a lot of red, orange, green, and blue. So I could really use any colors down here I like. I might use kind of a fuchsia color because I don't have that on here. I might use this on my flowers. So I'm gonna go in and paint some of these flowers. And this will be kind of the last step, is the foreground. This is the stuff that's right up close, so my little field of flowers. And so I might do some blending here. So instead of just having it one color, I might put this and then add some red to it to make it kind of blend, which looks really nice. I might add a little purple in here. We could always add some texture on these to look more like the seeds in the center. So it's really up to you how you want to do your flowers. And this is kind of the last step. And then these masterpieces will be completed. All right, I went ahead and finished the flowers. I added some extra texture by adding some purple on top of the pink, and just added some extra texture onto the center of the flowers. And this landscape is complete. You can see how we blended those colors of watercolor together to just make a really fun, interesting landscape. And I can't wait to see the one that you create.